We did it, buddy. Blue Jays opening day. What a long haul it's been for Blue Jays and baseball fans in general the last 6 months, eh?
You've got your shirt on, and that's before I can
I've
even
got
address
my
any of your questions. I need to know, where did you get that shirt? Because I love it.
I love this shirt as well, so everyone take a look. Yes. I paid way too much for it online.
Of course.
Yes.
Of course. Okay.
So I don't like to bring up the price. My wife has asked me before. I'm like, don't you worry about it, baby.
Don't you worry.
But I do love this shirt.
It's very, very nice. All right.
This is my opening day celebration shirt. So
it's a beauty.
We're in it.
For anyone listening on the podcast audio only side, it is a very classy Hawaiian style button down, but it is all Blue Jays
yes
symbology on it. So very cool.
It's busy, as my dad would say. It's so busy. Why are you wearing such a busy shirt?
All right. Well.
All right. So welcome to the walk-off, everybody. I'm Scott Belford, joined as always by Adam Mack. And holy cow, like, I've been waiting for this day, and it didn't feel like it was going to come. And then the lockout. It's been a lot, man.
It's been a lot. You and I are not in Toronto.
No.
But boy, do I wish we were. Because this is the first opening day in Toronto in 3 years.
And it is palpable, the energy there, man. I've been getting texts from comics and friends that I haven't seen or heard from in, like, over a year. And they're like, holy cow, Toronto's a buzz. Like, it is so fun. I know our buddy and fellow comedian, Drew Bame, out of Alberta. Of course, he's repping Alberta out in the 6 now. And he's interning with Breakfast Television. So he's actually at Rogers Centre right now. And I know that he got to put the lapel on Mark Shapiro, which is pretty darn cool. And for those of you listening on audio, you may recognize Drew Bame as our intro guy. So whenever you hear the guy who's like, Blue Jays, baseball, Blue Jays, that's him.
Oh, man. My wife, like, in the most polite way and respectful way possible, hates that intro. She's like, it's perfect for you guys, but boy, do I ever find it annoying. So, and I love it myself. Funnily enough, I know you've been getting texts from all your buddies back in Toronto. I've been texting people in Toronto as well. I've just been punching in that area code followed by 7 random numbers, and I'm like, opening day, can you believe it? And everyone's like, yes, it's awesome. And who is this? So, but the excitement
the best
is
break
there.
text ever. Yeah, there you go. Okay, so let's get into it. We do have a big show coming up here. We do want to tease really quickly. Obviously, we're going to be doing a live stream for the first time since that second last game of the season last year. We're doing a live stream, so please feel free to join us live at 5 p.m. Now, if you haven't listened or been involved in a live stream before, basically what it is it's a companion piece. Mm-hmm. You turn the game on, you have us on your computer.
Yeah, it's not going to replace what you're watching. We don't go pitch by pitch. It's not a play-by-play. We tried that initially. It's exhausting. It's not as fun. Like, we're not as good as
Yeah, we're not Buck and Tabby. We're not Dan Schulman. Yeah.
Oh, man. I mean, 10 years from now, we might be as good as Buck and Tabby if we continue to get better and they continue to...
Yeah,
anyways.
Our axes may meet in 10 years, yeah.
But no, a companion piece is the best way to put it. It's a good hangout. It's a watch party. Put us on while you've got the game on in the background as well. And then we all just kind of go, holy shit, did you see that play? Sort of stuff, right? So
exactly.
It's a good fun
Okay,
time.
so I do want to tease some of the guests that we have coming up and some that we've already talked to. So we had a great conversation on Wednesday night with David Sampson, who former VP of operations with the Montreal Expos, the president of the Miami Marlins, of course, Florida Marlins when he won the World Series with them, and just like one of the more insightful, cool, different interviews that we've done. And by the way, I do want to take this moment to just say to you, Adam, like, congratulations, buddy. That was a really good interview, and you took the helm and the lead there for the first time, and it worked out really well, man. It was great.
Thank you. Well, I mean, Yeah, to be completely frank, it was a little bit more of like I came across maybe as a bit more of an ego stroke for our guest than I would have liked it. But I mean,
You fanboyed a little, but what do? You listen to his podcast every day.
well, I mean, and the goal is to have him back. And I know the kind of
Yeah.
personality that he has. He likes to get his ego stroked, if you couldn't
Yeah.
tell. So, I mean, the
Yeah.
goal is to get him back every 6 to 12 months, right? So,
Yeah.
we'll hold his feet to the flames next time. But for this time, we want to make a good impression and make him feel like the king of the world. And but he is like a very interesting character. I mean, he put it best himself. You know, he has an interesting or unique perspective in this realm because he is a former major league executive with no interest in getting back into the role, right? So
Yeah.
most of these guys don't want to talk the way he does because they don't want to hurt their chances of getting another job. He's like, been there, done that. I mean, won a World Series, hosted an All-Star game, got a stadium built for the city he was in. Like, as far as being like a professional executive at that level goes, he's done it all.
He has. And that, like, him talking that Giancarlo Stanton contract that he got done was so interesting, and just his insight on mega contracts in general. Anyways, that whole conversation is up currently on YouTube, as well as the audio side of things. You can get the podcast wherever you get your podcasts, Spotify, Google, Apple, all that good stuff. A couple more quick teases here before we get into this thing. Jeff Blair of Sportsnet and Blair and Barker, one of my fave radio dudes. And of course, when I was in Toronto, I was always, this was before I went full-time comedy, so I was driving a delivery truck around downtown Toronto all the time, and I'd have Sportsnet, the fan, on constantly. So it's pretty cool that we're going to get to sit down with Jeff Blair. We'll talk the Blue Jays. We'll talk some broadcasting. That's going to take place on Monday, so April 11th, after this weekend, and we should probably have it up probably Monday, but maybe
What is
Tuesday.
it about all these like sports writers who are moving over to radio? Like,
Yeah.
I mean,
Newspaper's dead, buddy.
they're like they've got to evolve their art form, but they're not gonna get crazy with it. They're like one step at a time, Sonny. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not getting a
then-
Facebook page, but I'll get a MySpace page. It's just, anyways, sorry.
One last tease.
Yes.
So obviously Jeff Blair on Monday, and then as if that's not enough, 1 week from Monday, April 18th, we sit down with the starting catcher of the Toronto Blue Jays. Danny Jansen is going to be joining the podcast, which is so exciting and so freaking cool.
Very,
so
very
put that one in the calendar. We've got a big month in April when it comes to interviews, and we'll even tease we have a possible sit down with a World Series champion with the Toronto Blue Jays, somebody from that 92 and 93 team. I don't want to make any announcements on that yet. We have been texting with him, but we haven't locked it down, so until we lock it down, but just know April's a big month for guests. You can follow us at Walk Off Podcast on Twitter. Our Twitter account continues to grow. We appreciate all the follows and the interaction. You can follow us on Instagram, the Walk Off Podcast. Let's get into it, buddy. It is a big show. We've got opening day yesterday. Of course, baseball got underway. We'll get into it. Marcus Simeone returns to Toronto. Alek Manoah, which he is a special dude, man, and we're going to talk Alek Manoah because he's not just good for the Blue Jays. He's not just good for baseball. I truly believe he is good for sports in Toronto and Canada in general. The Jays are not the underdogs this year. They are ranked second in MLB Power Rankings and are getting all sorts of American attention. We'll get into that. And then we're going to talk the Jays and the Guardians trade that happened yesterday. Not the blockbuster we were all hoping for, but there was a depth piece brought in to finish off this roster. And we'll end on a fun little bit of trivia about the Milwaukee Brewers and how that ties into the Blue Jays. So let's start, man. Opening day. You've got your Blue Jays hat, your Blue Jays
mug. This mug is way
coffee
too small.
mug.
It doesn't hold enough coffee for me, but I mean, I'm going to drink from it today, and then it'll probably just end up on the shelf for the rest of my life. But we did it.
So it's been 3 years since there was an opening day in Toronto at Rogers Center, 2019. So let's start with that. I know you've got the 2019 starting day rotation up right now. Let's see what the Blue Jays look like
Okay,
in
so
April of 2019.
we opened. Looks like it was actually a March 28th opening day in 2019. So this was Danny Jansen at catcher, Justin Smoke at first base, Lourdes Gurriel Jr. at second base, Drury at third base, Galvis at shortstop, Teoscar in left field, Pilar, remember Pilar in center field?
Yeah.
Grichuk was our right fielder, and then we have Marcus Stroman pitching, and of course Rowdy Tellez was our DH.
Wow. And I mean, the official lineup hasn't been released for today, at least not yet, but it's probably going to look something like Springer leading off in center field, Guerrero playing first base, at hitting second, Bichette hitting third, shortstop, Hernandez in right field hitting fourth, hitting five, Gurriel Jr. in left field, Chapman at third hitting seventh, sixth, I should say, Kirk hitting seventh in DH, Jansen catching and hitting eighth, and then Biggio at second base hitting ninth. Something like that. I mean, really, we've talked about this before. You can take those top four guys in the lineup, put them in a hat, and pull it out, and you're probably going to have a pretty successful top four.
One interesting thing I'm taking away from that, you put Vladdy at second. Is that what you want to see, hitting second? Or is that just...
I want to see Vladdy hitting third, but okay, I don't know why. I get the feeling he's going to be given that extra at bat, even though it's probably going to break down to only a few more at bats right off. But
yeah, I think similar. Yeah, that's going to be pretty close to the lineup. Maybe one difference as a possibility is maybe Kirk isn't DHing and you put Teoscar as DH, and then you get bat flip Tilapia out in right field. So
right, yeah.
But
it's a pretty solid lineup moving forward this year. So I'm how can you not be excited
we've got
about
Barrios
right?
taking the mound, right? Taking the ball opening day tonight.
Opening day, Jose Barrios. Big new fancy extension to flaunt about the Rogers Center. Man, cool. It has been way too long since an opening day in Toronto, and I'm so excited about it. And the hype continues to build. I don't know if you saw it, but there was on Vladdy's Instagram live, not live, but his stories. Right. There was a clip of him and the boys singing "Oh Canada," and man, it just gave my goosebumps. It was just like so cool. They're all so excited. Like, that's the thing, dude, right? Is it's not just us fans that are excited about this opening day in Toronto. Like, the players are beside themselves with how excited they are. Like, man, this is a team that had 3 different home stadiums last year, and they finally get to go into Toronto, rent their condo, settle in for the summer, bring their girlfriend, their wife, their partner, however you want to play it. Their kids can come to Toronto now. You know, like, this is so exciting for guys like Springer and Ryu and these guys that haven't really got to experience the city. So it is pretty darn cool what's happening. And join us on our live stream, 5 o'clock. Mountain time, I guess 7 Eastern for all of you Torontonians. Yeah. So we'll move into Marcus Simeone, because Simeone is coming back to Toronto.
Yes, he is.
Playing the Texas Rangers. And what's the best way of putting it? Absolutely destroyed last year?
Well, it was a career year in every sense of the word.
Set a new record for most home runs from a Toronto second baseman.
Pretty close to all-time second baseman seasons.
Yeah.
For any team in the MLB, honestly. 162 games. He bet on himself with a 1-year contract. Wanted to re-roll the dice on free agency after kind of what happened there leaving Oakland, and he got blackjack. So good for him. Paid off 7 years, $175 million in Texas, I believe was the contract.
He was the true winner of this offseason. I mean, Corey Seager and him both won big time, but I mean, Marcus Simeone got a contract that I don't think anyone betted on. Maybe just he did. You know, like maybe Simeone saw this coming, but I just am so impressed with the term and the dollar amount that he got. And we'll get into an interview that I saw. I don't know, you didn't see him sitting down with Arash Madani,
No, I didn't
correct?
see the full interview. I just saw some highlights from it. But
So Arash Madani of Sportsnet, friend of the show, right? He's come
Yeah.
on the walk-off, and he sat down with Marcus Simeone, and it was really cool to see how much Marcus respected and was appreciative of what the Blue Jays did for him last year. Like, he truly was humble about it, and he was very open about how much they helped him find a fitness and dietary routine that kind of helped him stay healthy all year. He did struggle with health in 2020, and then he came to the Jays in 2021, and he played a full 162 games, man.
yeah, well, I mean, 2020 he missed 7 games. In 2017 he missed about half the season. But yeah, in the last 4 years he's only missed 10 games total. So
Yeah, and I mean that 60 game season, he did play through some injuries, which is
Yeah.
it's why he struggled, I think, because 2019 you look at his numbers and he pretty much repeated that and even better in 2021. So
Yeah.
I think 2020 is just a blip on the radar, and obviously the Texas Rangers felt the same thing. And it's cool that he played 162 and gave that as a goal to some of these youngsters, because you listen to Vlad talk and you listen to Bo talk, and that's their goal, right? Is to play 162 games. And 162 games, it's going to give you an opportunity to put up better numbers. I mean, it helps the team because it gives you that beacon of consistency in the field.
yeah.
You don't need to constantly switch out the lineup. But even more than that, more than just helping the team, it helps the player individually. And obviously it helped Marcus Simeone, right? Crushing that contract.
One thing to note here, just with his impressive 162 that he played, only one of those games was as a DH.
Wow.
So
Like,
I
that
do
is
think that's worth
consistency
pointing out
in the
as well.
field.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. He did play some time at shortstop. I think it was about 20 games at shortstop. But yeah, he was just. Whew.
Yeah, it was impressive. One last thing that stood out to me about that interview he did was Arash straight up asked how close the Jays were to landing him. And I was actually really surprised as to how candid he was about that question, because the answer was yes, the Jays were in on him right till the end. And for him to say that, it had to have been a fairly substantial offer that the Jays made him, probably something in the Springer realm. 6 years, 150 million. And I think that's why the Rangers got him, is they went that extra year. They went 7 years and that extra $25 million.
Yeah, that's almost certainly what it is. Broad strokes, we replaced Ray with Gossman, right? We're just roughly calling that a push, despite our friend of the show, Hey Kami, Joel, arguing the contrary there. Do you feel like it's a push moving from Marcus Simeone to Matt Chapman? Or is that still a step back?
No, I believe it's a wash, personally.
Okay, me too.
And I don't want to be too much of a homer here, because obviously Marcus Simeone was incredible. The wins above replacement that he put up last year was elite. The fielding he did was elite. I mean, I know how you feel about wins above replacement, but it is a valuable stat to look at.
Yeah. No, I was getting roasted in our Discord for not understanding how WAR is calculated. So I was like, I'm going to look into it. And then I looked into it and it's like, oh, it's not calculated. It's not a fucking formula. It's not a calculation. It's just absolutely an arbitrary estimation of how good a player is. It's fucking formal power rankings that people. Anyways.
No, but we've talked about this before, but Matt Chapman is such a vacuum at third base, and the defense that he brings to this team. I think that any production that they may lack offensively from him, like maybe there's a step down offense.
You don't
but
think
I think
Chapman
that,
hits 45 home runs? I don't either. But But yeah, no, they're like, I know where you're going with this. And look, you just went through our opening day lineup. Kevin Biggio is going to play second base. Last year,
Yeah.
he was our opening day third baseman, I believe. Like, that's a big
This
value add.
Yes, it is. Getting Kevin off at third base is the biggest thing they did this year. Yeah. Speaking of MLB Power Rankings, and we touched on this, but the Blue Jays are ranked second on the MLB Power Rankings. Now, before we get too into this, Adam, if you could tell everybody how important the MLB Power Rankings are and what they actually mean.
Well, next to spring training performance, it is the single best indicator as to how the actual regular season will play out. So,
yeah, it means jack shit. Exactly. Now, that said, honestly, though, dude, the Jays, for the first time that I can remember, are being highly touted by American media.
Yes.
This is not something that happens very often. Like,
No.
there are big-time pundits out there that are saying they're going to be the team that comes out of the American League. They are being touted as World Series contenders by almost every media outlet.
Yeah.
How do you think this affects the psychology of the Blue Jays?
Hopefully in a good way.
Right?
I mean, I do trust in the leadership group with the Blue Jays. I know we've been over that a bunch. I also trust in the Robert DiBernardos of the organization.
Yes.
I think we have a very strong mental performance department, and I think this is something that hopefully they were prepared for how to handle this new level of pressure, because it is definitely something different to be the nobody believes in us team to the fuck, we were projected to win the whole thing and we're out of the gates at 5-10, right? Like, so.
Well, this is where a guy like George Springer is going to come in incredibly handy for these young core of players, you know? Like, he's a guy who's been there before. He's won a World Series. He was with the Astros when they were touted as the best team around. So he's dealt with these pressures before, and hopefully his experience can help these other younger players who haven't dealt with it before kind of navigate it. But it's exciting, man. They're not the underdogs.
It is. And it's really exciting. I mean, because we self-check all the time. Like, okay, we are the home team coverage here, right? Like, it is easy to look at this lineup and go, yeah, this looks really good. And then when you start to go, it's like, am I looking at this through rose-colored glasses? Is this just because I'm a Jays fan that I think Chapman's going to be great? Is it, you know, am I overvaluing Vladdy and everything that he could do? But when you go on to ESPN or like the Jean Boy Media folks, right? And they're all like, yeah, this team, I can't find a hole in it, right? It's like, okay, yeah, no, this is when your competition agrees that you're a pretty freaking good team, that's definitely some legitimizes some of the hype and the excitement that we have. Now, I would say that like on paper, this team is good. It is a 162 game slog. We do have to see how it plays out, right? Bad tacos are going to be a factor for any contending team, right? Like, being healthy through the season is probably the number one factor in any team's championship run, right? But I don't even want to have those discussions because I do think that bad tacos is something that is going to happen to any team, right?
Yes.
So I think, yeah, like when you talk about what are expectations, and I know we're going to talk that here in just a minute, what are our expectations for the Blue Jays this year to define a successful season? There is a asterisk to all of our expectations and our predictions that given a healthy season for the majority of this team, this is what our expectations are, right? And so, yes, there is the caveat of like, well, they got to stay healthy, but I don't even want to have that chat because that applies to 30 out of 30 teams.
Yes, it does.
So the Rays could
Great
have a big group meeting of bad tacos and the Rays might miss the playoffs, right? Like, so to speculate about which team is going to have the worst luck or the best luck with bad tacos, I don't even want to play that game of speculation because it's just such a roll of the dice. So, yes, hopefully.
Agreed 100%. By the way, for anyone new to the podcast, I'll only give this little tidbit once, but bad tacos is injuries. We just don't want to jinx anything, right? So
Yes.
we'll
Yes.
move on from there.
All right.
May all the tacos be good this year
That's
in Blue
nothing
Jay
but
land.
good, mild tacos.
So I'm curious then, what is your opinion on what would a successful season look like? Like, are the Blue Jays so highly touted right now that they're in a point where it's World Series or bust?
Close to that, I think. We're talking about making the World Series, not necessarily winning, right?
Yes.
Okay, so for me, playoffs is a bit of a crapshoot too. I think being hot at the right time is important, and I don't think that's necessarily something that you can force into happening, right?
Yeah.
Hopefully it works out. I will say that over the course of 162 games, what did we win? 91 last year?
Mm-hmm.
And missed the playoffs. So I think we just talked about it. I think Chapman and Simeone, that's a wash. The Gossman replacement of Ray, that's a wash, right? So right there, I think that still 91 wins is a minimum, right? We have Barrios for a full season. We have Manoah for a full season, who should be better than he was last year. We have all the kids on the team should take a step forward, right? How does Vladdy take a step forward after hitting 48 home runs and finishing second in
It's
MVP
true.
votes? I know that's a tall ask. I do, right? But there are other ways. Defensively, he did have his struggles at first, right? Those fly balls over the head into shallow right field, struggled with them, right? I still think there's room for Vladdy to improve. I don't think that was the best season we'll ever see of him. That might be his season high in home runs, but I do think he gets better. I think across the board, everyone gets better. We play all of our home games in Toronto. I think that's better. Our bullpen is significantly better.
Agreed. And the depth is much better.
This all has to... It feels like 9 extra wins in what I just explained.
And they're playing all of their games at Rogers Center
Yes.
in home. Like, all their home games are in a major league stadium. That makes a difference.
I do think this is a 100-win team. I do think we win the AL East, and I do think that we go to the World Series.
Wow. I love
Short of those 3 things, I think we're going to be kidding ourselves as fans and, more importantly, as a team if we don't do all 3 of those things.
I think as long as they get to the American League Championship Series, that this season is a success. Obviously you want the World Series. But I do look at this team and the way that they're built and the youth within it and the window that has opened up, and they do have a 2 to 3 to 4 year window here. So if they take another step, last year they just missed the playoffs. So if this year they make the playoffs and make some noise and get into the championship series, I would have real trouble being like, what a failure, right? Like, this was not a success. I do think that would be a success. But again, you can't see the future. You don't know how this is going to play out, and there's a lot of baseball to play. We haven't even played game 1. So we'll leave it at that. But yes, it's a very exciting time to be a Blue Jay fan, without a doubt. I do want to talk Alek Manoah because I was following him on Instagram yesterday and just seeing some stuff that was very exciting. Like, listen, the perception of Toronto amongst professional athletes, let's drop baseball altogether and just broaden this spectrum to sports in general. Professional athletes, it has changed a lot over the years, and it continues to change. Just the perception of the 6. And I think the Raptors winning it all in 2019, it really helped with that. But the truth is, I think the Raptors has really helped with that in general, in changing the perception of Toronto. You know, the basketball, hip-hop, multicultural vibe has got star athletes singing the city's praise.
Right.
And we saw guys like DeMar DeRozan fall in love with Toronto. Kyle Lowry fall in love with it. We saw it firsthand here on the Blue Jays with Marcus Stroman. And however you feel about Stroman, the dude has the skyline of Toronto tattooed on his abdomen. So obviously he is pro-Toronto. Alek Manoah is doing the same thing. And when I say the same thing, I mean he's truly embracing the culture that is Toronto, the Six. You know, like he was at the Raptors game last night. He had his bright purple Raptors jacket on, joking around with the Raps on the court, soaking up Toronto and being an ambassador for the city. Like he was there loving it, hobnobbing with the fans. And this isn't something athletes need to do. This isn't part of the gig. Athletes don't need to integrate themselves into the tapestry of a city. I mean, it's beautiful when they do, but they don't need to become one with the city. It elevates his marketability, Manoah, doing this. It increases the value of Toronto and as a marketplace to stars, not just in baseball, but not just in basketball, but in professional sports in general. Like, I really think Alek Manoah, especially after seeing how much he seems to be excited to be a part of this Toronto culture, and especially if he has the type of year that I think he will, which I think he's going to take a step forward. He had a great season last year. So if he takes another step forward, I mean, all of a sudden he's a top 20 starting pitcher in the American League, right?
Yeah.
And if he does that, I think he has the potential to be embraced and beloved by the city of Toronto like only a few athletes have experienced and achieved. Like we're talking Kyle Lowry level love. Yeah. Could be headed Alek Manoah's way if he continues on this path he is.
It's very cool. Very exciting for the young man. Swagger check on Manoah. He's got some real, like, I don't want to quite say chip on his shoulder attitude, but he's got some balls on him. You know?
Yes, he's a confident young man, without a doubt.
How do you feel about that? Do you think that's good? Do you wish he was a little more toned down?
I think it's needed.
Yeah.
I think his bulldog mentality is needed. And I love it so much, man.
Couldn't agree more. I mean, there's nothing better than seeing him out there just throwing gas past Aaron Judge and the Yankees and not being intimidated by anything. Because he's going to be facing some big bats all year long, and that's what you need, especially from a young guy who's not going to crumple under the pressure, but is, you know, a skyscraper out there himself. And I don't know.
It's hard not to be excited about Alek Manoah. So let's be serious, man.
Yes. No, everything about him. Love the energy. Love the attitude. Alek Manoah versus the New York Yankees. That is appointment viewing. Like, that is take the day off work, call in sick. That's a start I'm not going to miss all year long. So, very exciting stuff.
So, we will move on from here off of Alek Manoah and talk about yesterday's trade. The Blue Jays were involved in a trade. We've talked about this before too. Like, if the Blue Jays do have an Achilles heel within this organization, it's the lack of MLB ready outfield depth. Yeah. They currently have in the system Josh Palacio and Malik Smith is really their kind of insulation to any injuries or bad tacos.
Yes, thank you.
So what the front office did was they went out and tried to address that yesterday. So the Toronto Blue Jays traded bullpen piece Anthony Castro to the Cleveland Guardians in exchange for outfielder Bradley Zimmer. Now, Zimmer is a dude who is a defensive guy. Okay, so like that's his skill set. That's why he was brought in. He played 99 games with Cleveland last year. His slash line was 227 was his batting average, 325 was his on-base percentage, and a 344 slug.
But what
he's 29 years old. I don't know. I didn't look it up.
It's all good.
So he was acquired for his speed, for his defense. He plays a good center field, which is really something that they did need to address because, I mean, Kevin Biggio plays a little center field. Teoscar has a little experience in center field, but these aren't guys you want to see. If, let's say, God forbid, George has a bad taco and needs 10 days off to recover, it would be much better for this team to have a defensively sound center fielder out there. It's such an important high leverage position. And I think that that's why they went out and did this. And Anthony Castro, I mean, they got real value out of a guy that they claimed off of waivers in December of 2020. Like, this was a guy that they grabbed off the scrap heap, and now they're flipping for some depth. Not that Bradley Zimmer is going to be the be-all and end-all, but, you know, it definitely does help this team
Left-handed
in an area
bat?
of need. Actually, I don't know what he bats. I should have looked that up.
I can look that up quickly.
Okay.
I do want to say that one thing I've noticed with some of these, and he does bat left, by the way.
Okay.
So one trend that I've noticed, and maybe this is me just reading too much into it, these small, unsexy names that we've been acquiring in the last few weeks here, a little bit of an emphasis on speed.
Yes.
I mean, not the fastest guys in the league. I don't think we're expecting anybody to steal 60 bags this year. But there is some emphasis there, and I do wonder if that is an attempt to address some of the 7, 8, 9 inning struggles that we had last year, where the bats just seemed to cool off and we just couldn't manufacture a run in the late innings of close games. So I wonder if this is a little bit of an attempt to go, hey, we're going to have some speed. We're going to get some guys who can, you know, through smoke and mirrors, find their way onto the base path, whether that's through a ground ball or maybe laying down a bunt and, you know, stealing a bag and getting a run that way. So we have more options for pinch runners, if nothing else, right? Like,
I love that take, man, and I think you're nailing the you're hitting the nail on the head, if you will. It's pretty tough to play small ball when none of your guys can go first to third, right?
Yeah. No, absolutely true. So,
okay, did you have any other Blue Jay stuff to chat on here before we wrap this thing up? I've got one little Milwaukee Brewers
no, just that
trivia
interesting
thing.
Brewers trivia. So let's get to that.
Yeah. Okay, so let's do that. So the Milwaukee Brewers opening day first baseman over the past 10 years, over the last decade, have been as followed. Alex Gonzalez, Lyle Overbay, Adam Lind, Eric Thames, Justin Smoke, and Rowdy Tellez. Notice a trend?
It's very interesting. They're
Isn't that crazy? Isn't that a crazy stat?
Blue Jays?
Every single one of them former Blue Jay first baseman.
Wow, interesting. So
very cool.
They're really pushing for Vladdy then next year.
The streak ends at Rowdy.
Yes, let's hope so.
Right, okay, let's end it on that. Thank you so much, everybody who have tuned in. We always appreciate the views. We appreciate you hitting subscribe. If you enjoy our work, you can get our audio side of things. That'll be up shortly. You can get that wherever you get your podcast, Spotify, Apple, wherever it is. You can follow us on Twitter at Walk Off Podcast and on Instagram, The Walk Off Podcast. And join us tonight. We're live streaming 7 p.m. Eastern for opening day at Rogers Center. Really looking forward to it. Take care, everybody.
Cheers.